Hey everyone. Hey everybody. Thanks so much for joining. It is great to be here. It is so good to be a part of your experience this morning and to be able to say, hey, how is it going, right? How is it going? It's Wednesday. I am beginning to think that it is Thursday. So if I'm still not sure, it is Wednesday. So remind me again, it's Wednesday, right? It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Hey, good morning. Thanks for joining. It's so cute, Emily. Wow. I like that. Thanks so much for joining. Uh, Welcome to Periscope. If you're just joining me on Periscope for the first time, thank you for being a part of my morning. Mr. Ernest Flag, RN. Interesting. I've always wondered about men in nursing. Have you guys ever thought about that? What is it like as a man who is in nursing? Because for so long, we thought that nursing was confined to just being a woman, and then we discovered that men actually do can be a nurse. They're just as sympathetic. They have great bedside manners. They know how to talk to you when you feel just as great. As a matter of fact, I think when you're sick with and in the hospital, you don't care who provides the service as long as someone does, right? You're more concerned about, am I getting the help that I need so that I can get better, as opposed to who is on the delivery end of it. And it makes you think about what used to happen in medicine in times of racism, in times of acute racism, right? We're not talking about today when people are play acting and trying to perpetuate a system, an ideological system that has no relevance to today's world. In today's world, we have come to this point in civilization to recognize that it takes all hands on deck to make the system work. We know that. We've read history, and we have the benefit of history to realize that some of the things our forefathers thought didn't actually work. So now that we are here, we recognize that it takes all hands and that people are people, that the color of someone's skin does not in any way tell you what the person is or what the person can do, that what really is the trial and what really is the fine point of the person is actually their character, who they are. It's not about the color of your skin. It's about who you are as a person and what you can do, right? So now that we have the benefit of history, you would have thought that racism would be on its way out. Instead, what we find today is that there are people who have entrenched systems of thought and entrenched ways of perpetuating a myth, a myth of one race being more superior than the other, because it is a myth. It has no basis in factuality. Now, I don't have to expound on it or beat on it because history tells you. As a matter of fact, you just need to take a look around you and look at yourself and look at others, and you realize, what's the difference between you and someone else? It's not the color of your skin. They appear to be different, but does that define them? Does that define what they are and what they can bring? And I believe that today God has done a marvelous work in leveling the playing field right before our very eyes, because we had hang-ups and entrenched systems of thought that only some people could do stuff. We thought that doctors, they made us believe, they tried to perpetuate a myth that only white people could be doctors, only white people could be scientists, only white people could be astronomers, only white people could be physicists, only white people could be, presidents and leaders, only white people could own companies, run companies. They tried that. And then the system collapsed. And now you realize, you go to the doctor and your doctor is brown or dark or black or from some other place, doesn't even speak your language, barely speaks your language, right? Anywhere you go in the world, you think this is just an American phenomenon? This is why when I look at people who are trying to be racist today, I'm like, you don't get out much, do you? Because I'm like, this is not an American phenomenon. This is happening worldwide. Anywhere you go in the world today, you go to Europe, and it's the same thing. The doctors and the engineers are of a different color. They're of a different ethnicity. So no, we don't want to say color today. We want to say ethnicity because there are so many negatives attached to using the word color when you apply to people. Because really, What is color when applied to a human being? A human being can't be red or blue, and it only applies when you're talking to someone who is a non-white. You see what I'm saying? So when you look at it, you begin to realize that it was ludicrous from the beginning, and the people who thought that were not enlightened. They lived in one tiny little part of the world where everyone looked like them, and they took that to mean that was the whole world. Then they went to the rest of the world, saw that the people who lived in other parts of the world didn't look like them, and they were like, wow, well, let's conquer them and take what they have so we can go back and make our society greater. Right? Do you see what I'm saying? Good morning. Right? And now here we are today, still perpetuating the same old age-old systems of racism that have destroyed people, destroyed continents. Africa being a prime example, South America still under a heavy entrenched system of European enforced color and racism that has literally destroyed the South American planet, the South American continent. If South America should be a driving force in world affairs, because it's made up of a number of different countries, most of whom are descendants of Spain or Portugal. And then later on, after Hitler started acting foolishly in Germany, then Germans went down there to escape persecution because they couldn't go to America or Europe because they would have been recognized. So they went down to South America and recreated this enforced system. If you think racism is bad in America, you need to go to some parts of South America. It's extremely bad in places like Brazil and in Venezuela, where people are judged by how light you are. Ridiculous. So my question today is, what does that have to do with love and sex? Because love and sex are human emotions governed completely by a human system of interaction based on chemistry. It's based on the fact that I see you, you like me, I like you. It has nothing to do with what I look like. Has nothing to do with my color. You didn't set out to like me because of my color. I didn't set out to like you because of your color. In fact, we see this every day when we start interacting with people who don't look like us and find that we like the person. Now, at the back of our minds, there might be a running commentary that that person comes from this group of people who have a propensity to be like that. But in fact, what we find is that, but I like the person, despite what the demographics say, despite what really the messaging in the demographics say about the person, we find that we still like the person. So what does racism have to do with the color? What does racism have to do with how I feel about you or how you feel about me? We like each other. There's a chemical interaction when we met, when we touched hands. Something happened, an exchange took place. That exchange is based purely on human chemistry and human interaction. How does racism govern that relationship? Is a question I'm portending today. And the reason for that is because so many people refuse or have been affected negatively by this racism that is being continuously perpetuated. Listen to me very carefully. Racism is bound by hate. It's promoted by hate. And it is supported by a hate message that is threatening to destroy this society. If we don't get a handle on it and destroy racism at its roots, it is going to destroy this society as we know it. Racism is destructive. It has destroyed people's lives. Listen to me very carefully. Any system based on the fact that when I show up, me in my skin, in my color, who I am a human being created by the same God that you believe in. This is what I don't get about fundamental Christianity and people who claim to be Christians but hate people. People who claim to be Christians but hate other people who don't look like them. Yes, I'm talking about white evangelical Christians. Yes, you people. Come at me. Come and talk to me. I want to hear your dialogue. I want to hear your discourse. Show me where in the Word of God that you are perpetuating godly love and Christian love, but at the same time, you hate everybody who doesn't look like you. I want you all to come and show it to me, because I've read the Bible 3 times. So come and show me where it is written. I want you to show me. Come show me the printed word where it is written, because I'm going to destroy you and I'm going to set you up, because this is what has destroyed the Christian faith. The way Christianity is in America today is nothing like how it is written in the Bible that you say I should read, that I read and discovered the love of God for myself. But instead, you are telling me a different form of Christianity that you made up, perpetuated by generational racism. Do you see what I'm saying? The racism that destroys people. I saw a tape where a leading Christian preacher today, who exists today, who said, I saw this with my own ears, who said that the races should not mix. You know, this dude actually went to the book of Genesis and took out a story about Ham, son of Noah, and said that was the reason why. The Bible never said the races should not mix. He made it up. But he made it up because generations before him perpetuated that myth. And at the same time, he was shaking hands with black preachers and black pastors. What a complete hypocrite. His ministry has not been the same since that tape was released some years ago. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because you cannot say you love God, but you hate the people of God. You cannot say you love Jesus and you perpetuate that you're a Jesus-filled Christian person, and then you see interracial couples walk into your assembly and you start preaching that the races should not mix. Doesn't make sense, does it? So what does racism have to do? I know I'm not going to get a lot of people agreeing with me on this, especially here on this forum called Twitter and Periscope. Y'all just tune up, because I'm not going to say what you expect that I should say or what you think I should say. You probably expect me to agree with the system of racism. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to say how evil and bad it is, because nobody wants to deal with it. And some people feel funny because you're like, well, it's not me. Nobody's attacking you, but we need to talk. We need to talk. We need to have dialogue, because it's destroying people's lives. There are young people who are falling in love, not because they are black and he likes a white girl, or the white girl likes a black guy, or a Chinese person, a person from China, Japan, Korea, or whatever, like some white person or like some black person. No, they like each other because they like each other. The chemistry took place and happened, and they want to pursue a relationship and explore their love. That's all that it comes down to, right? So whether you like it or not, I really am not here to like anything today. I'm not popular, because I don't try to be. I'm stating the facts, and these are the facts. This is the situation that we face, and it destroys people's lives. There are too many people who have met each other, like each other, and can't live together. I know one couple who are black and white. He's white, she's black, and she has a history because of her age. She lived in the South where they were hated, right? And now they won't live in the same house. They go out. They've been together for almost 40 years, right? They're married, but they won't live. She won't live in his neighborhood, and he won't live in her neighborhood. But they visit each other. Have you ever heard anything so crazy? Because she's terrified of how they're perceived and treated when they go out. And if she moves there, she doesn't want anything bad to happen. Racism is destructive. This is true. I've seen that with my own eyes. Racism is destructive. Love has nothing to do with what you look like. You meet someone and you love them instinctively. You kind of just get there and you don't know how you got there. If anybody has ever loved anybody or fallen in love, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Do you understand what I'm saying? You don't know how you got there. You just find yourself, even when something in you is telling you this is the wrong person, wrong this, wrong that, you just fall in love. Well, that chemical interaction is what nothing should stop. No racism. If anybody's going to stop it, it's because the two people don't want to be together. But it shouldn't be because of an entrenched system of racism. And if I sound strident about it, it's because I am strident about it and I am serious about it. Because this needs to stop. We've lived now for thousands of years. It's been hundreds of years on this side of the Americas, right? Where we came from in our different parts, we existed as little groups of people who really didn't know how the world was operating because we didn't have the communication tools to know what people were doing in other lands. We suspected that if we're on here and there are people here, there might be people somewhere else, but we couldn't communicate. Once we started traveling back and forth, it was supposed to promote what? Well-being among people, cooperation, not conquest. So they heard the wrong C word. They heard the C word and thought that meant conquest, but they really were supposed to cooperate, share your resources. In some parts of history that I have read, it seems to me that the people who lived in Egypt and in Africa had advanced knowledge of medicine, whereas people in some parts of Europe were still running around in loincloths. I'm talking about England, right? They were still running around in loincloths while people in the eastern part of the world and in Africa already had entrenched, established societies. And then you're going to come and call people savages? The people who invented writing as an art form, hieroglyphics in Egypt, who wrote their history on walls so the next generation could rise up and read it. You dare call those people savages? You want to tell me that that's not stupid and ridiculous and idiotic? You want to tell me when the explorers went to Tenochtitlan in Mexico and discovered the Aztec tribe who had an entrenched society based on hierarchies, you're going to call those people savages? When you were still running around in Europe and you were actually a convict in jail and they put you on a boat and said, get out of the country, we can't feed you anymore. Come on, right? You want to talk about this? Let's talk about this. Talk about humble beginnings, right? Humble beginnings. And now you want to come and tell me generations later that you think you are better than me. You think that you are a superior being. This is the thing that gets to me. I can see where class and money is going to make you feel like you are better than someone. Because after all, you have more money than I do. You have more money than you do. So you can drive around in a Bentley or a Rolls Royce. You know, you have the opportunity to call up a private jet, get on a private jet and go anywhere you want in the world. And you can order anything you want or whatever. I can see that and relate to that. But to actually think you little person thinks you are better than me because there is a distinction between us. There is no distinction except money and class. None. Money is the distinction. That's all. And when I make enough money, I'll be better. I'll be just like you. It's nothing. So the fact that we have used color, the appearance of it, the appearance of what the skin looks like when exposed to the sun, based on melanin, based on what region of the world we lived in, determines who you are as a person is the most ridiculous concept. And that is what is causing the problem. Now, in America, we were moving progressively towards eliminating that band of thought because, frankly, it doesn't make any sense. And frankly, let me lay it out for you. The people to whom this matters are the people down here. Up there, like I told you the other day, there are about 7. You don't believe me? Go to Forbes.com or Google it. There are about 1,700 billionaires in the world. A few of them live in America. The rest of them don't live here. They live in other countries where people are black and brown. Get a reality check. Those 1,700 billionaires control all the commerce, all the political power, all the money on this planet Earth. Get yourselves a reality check. In other words, what I'm saying to you here, people, stop the freaking fighting over potatoes and meat. It's centuries old. They're still using the ideology to keep you all bound. Stop fighting over potatoes and meat because that's what you're fighting over. You're getting up and marching about white nationalism, my ass. Do you have money to go build a toilet in Africa? Do you have money to go help somebody? You're living from paycheck to paycheck on your credit alone. Are you talking to me about white nationalism? Are you a billionaire? Then you can talk to me about white nationalism. When you have money like Mark Zuckerberg, when you have money, Donald Trump doesn't have enough money to be a billionaire. You need to have 2, 3, you need to have one past the billion mark. 2, 3 billion, then you can start talking. Do you understand what I'm saying? Get that. And then you can come and talk to me about white nationalism. And at that level, you don't talk about what? White nationalism, because what? You need everybody to continue making you money. So guess what the billionaires and the very wealthy people of the planet do? They get together and laugh at the rest of us. They're like, feed them scraps of information and ideology. Move that, promote that. Let them continue fighting, because the more they fight, it's the better it is for them. And you all sit there in your little corner and you start jockeying up against, you live in your little subdivision, your little postage stamp front lawn, and you're going to fight the neighbor who looks like who's an Indian, who has to work to keep it. If he doesn't work, he can't keep it. The neighbor who is Chinese. Y'all are jokers out there. Are you hearing me? What does racism have to do with love and sex? Y'all need to just start going and being with the people whom you like. How about that? Right? If you just be with the person whom you like. You see a girl and you like her, go for it. You see a guy and you like him, go for it. Regardless, go and do it. What is going to happen? Because that's how we're going to tear down this idea, this ideologue of racism. Racism is destructive, right? What does that have to do with sex? Do you know people go on vacation and they have sex with people, they can't even speak the same language? And that's when you really discover this is not, it transcends, the chemistry transcends color, has nothing to do with it. I read a story once where a woman said that every time a black man sleeps with a white woman, he's sleeping with his oppressor. And I'm like, the same is true in every other way, right? You need to think about it. You need to think, what does that have to do with how I feel about you? What does racism? People nowadays, when they meet each other, they're from different backgrounds and they have to start talking like, how is this going to affect me? How are we going to deal with this when we go out in public? How are people going to respond? Why should that be part of the fact that you love and care about one another? That should be the most important criteria. Do you love one another? Do you care about this person? Do you care about them long enough to live with them? So now added to that is the societal pressure that you now have to worry about how you will feel when you go out. Right? You have to wonder, how will your own community feel? Your own community is defined by family members and friends and co-workers. So people go to work, and in work, because of affirmative action and the relaxation of laws, now everybody comes together. That's why we should all have potlucks at work. You bring your own dish, I bring mine, and we all sit down and eat over food. Because after all, there are all human beings eat, have sex, and go to the bathroom. Those common three things are common to the human experience, right? Right? So you're curious about what people eat. You find out they eat food that they put in their mouths. And I know some of you, especially some of you who are white, you're saying, well, I grew up and they told me that black people eat dirty stuff. I could tell you some things that you guys do that I find absolutely abhorrent. Do you know that? I find some hygiene situations, sanitation situations, some of the ways you cook, I find them totally abhorrent. But you don't see me going out and making a case about it or using it to say, I'm going to condescend to you because you look different, right? It's crazy stuff, right? Crazy stuff. I'm reading these comments here. Let me hear what you all have to say. I've never said a black person eat dirty stuff. You say that maybe you didn't. You're enlightened, right? It's like saying a Indian person. It's like this thing we have in the society where we think that people who are Asians, the only thing they're good for is engineering and math and science. Like they can't speak or write or become a lawyer. It drives me crazy. Like that's all they can do. You mean to tell me they can't become a lawyer or a politician either? Racism, right? This stuff that we have created. This idea we have created where we try to make these boundaries and barriers between people. I'm telling y'all don't see what's coming in the next world, do you? And you think you won't be alive. It's coming faster than a NASA rocket. You don't see what's coming, right? What is coming, people, is the money. Go get the money. have as much money as you can have, because there's 1,700 billionaires in the planet. That's less than 0.0001% of the entire world population. And they control all the money, all the political power. They determine what person goes into power into each region to serve their interests, because billionaires have financial interests in every part of the planet. I'm going to take Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook as an example, right? For most of us, we think only of America, and we think that Mark Zuckerberg is only powerful in America. But Facebook is in other parts of Europe and Asia and Africa. For them to operate in those spaces, they have to obtain what? Permission from foreign governments. What is that? That's called what? Exerting what? Influence. So who has influence? Facebook. Who is the owner of Facebook? Zuckerberg. So he's someone with political power and money to move foreign markets. You don't believe me? Apple is an American company. Apple sells products. Is it only here in America people use iPhones? No, people use iPhones all over the world. So Apple has influence in other spaces, don't they? So the people who own Apple and who operate, aren't they part of the ruling class of the world? I am saying to you all, you're not thinking of this in the big picture. You're looking at this little part right here, me and my little tool on my block, and that guy over there is putting his lawn, and he's making his sprinkler touch my lawn, and you're fighting over minuscule, stupid things instead of looking at the big picture. Now, I want to be a billionaire. Which one of you is working towards being a billionaire? None. Why? Because you're all sitting there fighting over this racist stuff, this stupidity. Let me hear what this person over here is saying. Let me hear. Ask me my opinion. Do you believe that we are reborn into several lifetimes? I think we have all been black, white, etc. before in prior lives. No, I don't believe in reincarnation. So I don't subscribe to that. I don't know how that works, really. I've tried to think about reincarnation, but I don't believe that. I believe that it's this realm, this life, what we refer to as life, and then the next one is death, where you're dead forever and until Jesus comes. That's kind of what I believe, right? I don't believe fair enough. Yeah. So I don't know how to say, well, if I lived in another experience. I do know that our DNA, I feel like our DNA, that they're now referring to it as epigenetics, that it passes from one generation to the other. I do know that you know your generations based on how you feel. It's called affinity, how you feel about some things. Like I went to Disney one time. You know, Disney has this 360 thing. And where you do the tour of nations at Epcot. I think it's Epcot, that park, Disney in Orlando. And I walked into what they have a representation of each country. I walked into Germany and I felt completely at home. I knew what biscuits to, you know, what cookies and what to, I just knew it. Turns out that I actually, on my grandmother's side, have some Germanic ancestry that I had known about, but I didn't believe. I just thought they were just making stuff up because people look different back then as a kid. Turns out that that's what it was. I determined that I have an affinity for Spanish foods and Spanish music that I had no idea why. Turns out my mother's father is Cuban. Then I like corned beef. You know, I found out that, you know, I like the color green and like some other stuff. Well, my father's father is from Ireland. So when you look at it, and the rest of them, they came over from Africa somewhere, right? So when you look at it, and then my mother's grandfather was from Scotland. So when you look at it, there are certain tastes that I think you develop, that you become aware of, that you have, that speaks to the DNA and the people who went before you. This is why I say, when they talk about racism, I'm like, who are you all discriminating against? You're discriminating against your own, because especially in the American South, white men were having sex with black women randomly. And don't tell me those black men were not having sex with the white women in there. I mean, the kids probably ran away into to Louisiana and became Cajun or something. But that's another story. But these things happen because wherever you put human beings together, sex is one of the things that is going to erupt out of it. In a lot of ways, it describes why there is a movement against people coming together, because some people in their white nationalist thinking think about things like keeping the race pure. I remember, you're not going to believe this crazy story, but some years ago I was in Orlando at like a country fair or something, and the guy we were selling T-shirts and stuff, and the guy in the booth next to us said something like he thought I was at least Puerto Rican, and he said, "What are you doing with a black man? You're not keeping the race pure. You should marry a white man so that the next generation becomes pure." My ex-husband said if he were standing beside me when that man said that, the man would not have lived that day. I kid you not. Racism. Do you see what I'm saying? Racism, just clear cut. You dislike someone intensely simply by how they look. You all need to cut it out. When you look at it and examine it in the fundamentals of it, you realize that it does not make any sense. Why? Listen to me. I know you were born and they told you that you are superior because you were born white. I know they told you that. That is not true. They have told you a lie. You don't believe me? Go to some places right now. I can take you around Metro Detroit where there are white homeless people because they took drugs. Somebody told them they were superior and they didn't really realize that that was a lie. So they did whatever they wanted to, and it ends up costing them their lives. Do you understand what I'm saying? I know they told you that, but that's not true. And are you a physicist yourself? There are people who are black, who are Asian, who are Hispanic, who are Jewish, and who are everything else, and who are Arab, who are physicists. How dare anyone say that you have to be one color to specialize in anything? It's just so if you were to fall in love with an Arab girl, you couldn't take her home because your family is going to say that she's a terrorist and she's a descendant of terrorists. Answer me. Right? Talk to me. So the common thing is white and black, but what if you like a girl who came from India? You're not going to like her? Love? You're going to say that it can't happen? If you like her and her parents came from Bombay, what if they came from Palestine or the West Bank, the Gaza Strip? I want you all to come to Metro Detroit. Y'all, if you don't live in Detroit, come down here. Come down to Southeast Michigan. We're the most diverse group of people. We're the unseen, unheard of diverse group of people in the country. We're like a little New York and a little bit of LA and a little bit of Miami mixed all together. Down here in Southeast Michigan, you find people from every part of the planet. And we live and get along. When was the last time you heard that the Arabs in Dearborn are fighting the blacks in Detroit? Or the whites in Sterling Heights are fighting against the blacks in Detroit? You ever heard of that? People go out and mix. We have people from India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, every kind of stan, Kazakhstan, every kind of stan there is. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're engineers, they're social workers. They answer the phones downtown at the city of Detroit. We have people from Thailand, Vietnam, every part of the planet. They go out with one another. They hang out with one another. Cut the foolishness out. Because the people who have the real money, they're not worried about that. They're worried about controlling you all so they can continue to have money. They're worried about manipulating you into thinking that the reason you're not getting something done is because of somebody else's color. So what happens is people are in positions and they think of themselves. They have these ideologies that they continue to perpetuate. because they don't have enough money. Maybe it has to do with having a lot of money, right? Chances are the Middle Eastern parents would deny that union before the white parents would. You're darn right about that. It's not hard to be on the same team when you're both fighting for clean water. You got some points there, brother. I just started you, get you started. It's true. You're right about that. The Middle Eastern parents will probably fight against it. You know why they're fighting against it? Because they're thinking of racism. They're thinking that at some point it's going to come out on their child. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see how destructive it goes way deep and way back? And some of it is so deep that we can't even excavate it out of our thinking or out of our spaces. But we have to start. We have to start. Because if we don't, we have already told the next generation, Generation Alpha, they're already seeing the struggle. Generation Alpha, you know those people born like after 2010? That's them. Generation Y is the people from 2000 to 2010. Generation Alpha, the people born after 2010, all they know are tablets, right? Those little kids, they don't know anything else. So they're learning and seeing it. And even when we send our kids to kindergarten was supposed to be a level playing field, right? So all the kids are learning in the sandbox. That's where we all learn our lessons of life, right? What happens in the sandbox, how we play. We start marginalizing people based on that. The margin should really be about how much money you have. Because right now, I want to go to Paris. I want to fly on a private jet. I see them making a lot of stuff in Britain about Meghan Markle, the American actress who married Prince Harry. Gosh, they're giving her hell over there. Number one, she's black. Number two, she's American. It's more about her color than anything else. They hate the fact that the prince married her. She didn't marry the prince. The prince married her. The prince chose her because he's rich and he has the autonomy to do what he wants. He doesn't care about color. He fell in love with someone and he wants to marry her. Now, the rest of them, the media, especially the media dogs, hate her. They're going to have that girl, that girl in trouble. They dog her out, talking about she's flying on a private jet. Can I ask you something? When was the last time you saw a royal person take a commercial flight? So why is it a problem because she flies on a private jet in her capacity as a royal person? She was flying on private jets before because she was rich before when she was dating the prince. So why do you make it up? You see where I'm coming from now? They're making it a problem because of racism. What does that have to do with it? They're hating on this girl because the white man, the rich, wealthy, powerful white man, fell in love with her. And they're fighting down here, right? Harry should have left the UK and become a commoner in the US. Why should he have done that? I see what you're saying, but why did he need to do that? Because the royal family didn't care, right? He would have been much happier. I love you. You're making me laugh. You got a point, though. Someone over here is saying that if Harry left the UK, become a commoner, and lived in the US, he would have been much happier. You're right. He could have made a movie in Hollywood. Right? He would have been much happier. But the people in the UK where all this thing started, they're hating on the fact that he married this black woman. This woman whose ancestry is as varied as mine. Just like yours. And they're hating on it and saying that she's flying on private jets. When was the last time you saw any royal person, anybody, take anything other than a private jet? He would have loved the girl he loves with impunity. Thank you. Love is love. Why are we putting boundaries on love? Why are we telling people who are 70 that they can't love? Why are we telling black people they can't love? Why are we telling white people whom they're to love? Why are we telling Arabs whom they're to love? Love is love. Love has no color. Love has no class. Love has nothing but love. Let love be. If you love somebody, be with them. If you want them, be with them. If you want to have sex with somebody who looks different than how you grew up to be, have sex with them. That's between you and your God and your idea of God, your idea of what God says. Do it. Why are we putting boundaries on people's love? You got to understand how this stuff works. At the end of the day, we're all each individually accountable for our actions to God. That is not to say I tell you to go do this and do that. I am just saying if you love someone, love them. Has nothing to do with what color they are. Love them. Sometimes people are just, I think those people in the UK are just jealous that she got the opportunity and he didn't choose one of their little white girls to go do that with. Because the other guy, the other brother who chose the common white girl, they don't have any problems with her because her skin is white. Exactly. It comes right down to color. Do you see how destructive that is? Right? You see how destructive that is? Right? So now, now it's like, so what? Right? Do you see what we're talking about? Right? So now we need to figure out, how do we get from here? How do we move on? Because it seems to me that our ancestors left us with a lot to deal with. Right? How do we move on from here? Well, it starts with you and I. It starts with you. Meanwhile, Prince Andrew is making sure he gets any love he wants. Dude, stop it. You need to stop. This guy has it lit up over here on Twitter. He says, meanwhile, Prince Andrew is getting all the love he wants, 12 years old and under. Stop. But it's true. Right? Because he doesn't care. He's the one with no barriers and boundaries on love, right? He's just, hey, right? So how do we move from here, right? How do we get by? It seems to me, I need some water. It seems to me that what we need to do, we need to turn the blinders off. It's kind of like we're going to have to go into this blind. It's like you put on blinders and who you love, that's who you love, right? We're going to have to pretend that this never happened. We're going to have to act like, hey, we just met. I'm not looking at you because you're brown. I'm looking at you because I really like you. That's how we're going to have to do it. Because if you're going to look and stare long enough, you know what you're going to do? You're going to walk away. You're going to say, nah, this would never work. There's too much societal pressure. And in the meantime, you go marry someone whom you really don't love and you're miserable and you end up in divorce court anyway. Right? We gotta stop it. There should never be a term called interracial couples. Tell me about that. Y'all need to talk. You're not talking. Talk to me. There should never be a term called interracial couples. You're just a couple. There should never be any boundaries on your love. Talking about people are interracial. Interracial, my foot is two human beings who got together. Two human beings came together and had sex. My grandmother and my grandfather got together and had sex. And here comes the rest of us. Here we all come striding out. That was love. To her dying days, she declared love for him. She loved that guy. She had like 10 children with him. When he died, she never remarried. That was her love. If they had met and loved, I like to think we wouldn't be here. Right? We wouldn't be. Think about that, right? And they lived in a time when there was censorship on that. There was censorship on that, but he married her. He had lots of children. And here we all come. We are descendants, right? Just like you. Everybody has a story like that to tell, especially those of you who came from the South in the last 100 years. Something happened somewhere. I think if everybody in America does a DNA, they're going to be shocked at what they find out. Don't you think? If you were to do a DNA sampling, and this is especially true for whites. You come from the South and you like to act like you're the biggest, baddest racist on the planet. Go do a DNA scan. You're going to be shocked to find out you have some Jewish ancestry and some black ancestry. Sub-Saharan Africa. Right? There's a guy who owns a Christian TV station, right? They challenged him to do a DNA test, and he had to announce the results of the DNA test on air. So he didn't open it before. I think he was pretty confident of the results. He didn't open it until he was on air live. They couldn't edit it out, dudes. And much to his surprise, he found out that he had some sub-Saharan African ancestry, like 8%. He couldn't see. Right there on air. He had to read it out. I kid you not. It was live and in living color. When he did the blind black white supremacists. No, I didn't see it. I should go look it up. It's probably on Netflix. Y'all go look up the David Chappelle show where he did the blind black racist thing. David Chappelle on Netflix. Go look it up. I'm gonna go look it up. I'll watch it. I have to see that. That sounds like something I have to see it. Something I'm gonna watch, right? Right? Can you imagine this guy who owns a TV station? I don't want to put his name out there because he'll feel bad. But seriously, he did his DNA and he had to read it on air. And he's a Southern white man. And he had to read it on air. I found out he had some sub-Saharan African in his DNA, in his ancestry. Something he apparently never knew, but I kind of always thought, because I'm like, you look a little touched. Right? I need to quit. So, and he's like a senior, he's like in his 70s. So you can just imagine the day and time when his people lived, his folks lived, and they had to deal with that. What does love have to do with the color of your skin? Right? Wait till the Martian gets here. Right? What does love have to do with the color of your skin? So you're Jewish and you like a black person. What does that, what is that? That's love. You're Jewish and you fell in love with a girl from Palestine or from the Gaza Strip. That's love. Love is love. Go love whom you love and be with whom you want to be with and be with whom you want to love. Love is love. Destroy the myth. Tear down racism. That's how you tear it down. All these white supremacists running around out there, they've never had love. You know how I know? Because when you have loved, you're gentler. You look at people in a different way. When you know what love is, you tend to be like, Love is love. I find that love is the unifying force. And until we all have love in our hearts, we're going to continue fighting against one another. You know who we're fighting? One another. Because you see those 1,700 billionaires? Beneath them, there are probably another 200,000 people on the planet who own most of the rest of the money, right? You think they don't know each other? They know each other. They party in the same places, right? That's why people around Jeffrey Epstein was kind of shaking in their boots, because they all went to the same parties. They know each other. They go to the same places in Palm Beach. They go to the same places in the Hamptons. They go to the same places in Europe to party and hang out, and they shop in the same spots, eat at the same places. They know each other. At that level, it's not about color. It's about what? Money. How do you get into that environment? You can't be from the trailer park or from the Appalachian Mountains. You got to have the money to get in. Catch you next. Thanks for stopping by. All right. See you. All right. Thank you. I like my braids too. Right? So the entry into certain levels is what? Money, not color. Okay? Money. So you want to be racist? You're foolish. You want to believe in this white supremacist, white nationalist? What are you fighting against? The system? Be part of the system and go make the money. When you make the money, you see how it changes you. Because all of a sudden, the person you have to go deal with is a Nigerian billionaire who owns all the oil in Nigeria and most of Africa, most of sub-Saharan Africa. Go talk to that dude. This is him all day. It's like, hey, you want to do business with me? I got some cement factories over here. Yeah, I want to do business with you. Yeah, sure. Let's sign on the bottom line. Then you go talk to the Indian guy who has all the tech over in Mumbai. You really want to know who is running tech. You're sick of the noise. Yeah, I'm sick of it, right? You want to really know who is running tech? Go down to Pakistan. Those are the real coders. Those are the real guys writing code. Those are the real hackers. Go down there to Pakistan. What's going on? Go down to Islamabad and see what's going down. This is why I say people who think white nationalists, they don't get out much. If they were planning a daily rally here in my hometown and we emailed the mayor and complained, of course. Yeah, because people are tired of it. You're tired of the hate and the angst. And you just really want to get up and go to work and go home and water your grass and sit on your lawn and do your thing, and eat and go on vacation somewhere. I am challenging everybody, get out and go on vacation somewhere. Plan a vacation next year. Go to Italy, go to South America, go to Egypt. Go down to Egypt. That's the levelest playing field I've ever seen. You all think you're all so big and bad. Go down to Egypt and ask yourself, how did they build those pyramids without a crane, without the modern technology that we know today? How did they excavate all of that without the big D8s that we know how today? Then that will give you some food for thought. Don't just go to Europe and walk around the pristine chapel. You think they didn't have some slave labor up there digging those things out? And taking the brown people from other parts of the world to go dig that? We've promoted culture as only whites having culture. And we forgot that there was Egypt and other parts of Africa. Go down to mid-Africa where the Nubians wrote their life and wrote their history on walls in plain English for everybody else to come and read. And then you're going to go call people savages. The next time somebody calls you a savage, you should say, honky tonk, you were running around in Europe in loincloths when my people were down in Africa writing on walls. Hello, somebody. And you're all laughing out there in the stratosphere. I kid you not. You're going to call people savages when people were over in India already figuring out how to talk to the stars through telescopes. Come on. How are you going to call people savages and say people are chinks and this and that when people were over in China building the Great Wall of China, an engineering feat that is defying to this day? How did they build that? Come on, talk to me. Talk to me about that. Yeah, get up and talk to me. They don't take me on because I'm going to go down there deep into it and excavate it and show you how ridiculous it is. Talk to me when you want to talk about racism. Let me tell you about the billionaires from Africa and other parts of the world. And money talks and everything else walks right out the door. All that's on the table is money. So talk to me about that. You want to go do business down in Africa? You got to talk to the man down in Nigeria. You want to go do business in India? You got to talk to the Indians who are brown. So how are you going to come talk to me about you think your little color? What you got? Don't let me start. Don't let me start. Don't let me go public by saying the things that I really know, because it is ridiculous and stupid. Stop lying to people. Stop perpetuating the myth. And you white people who are in positions of power, you're hiring people and you hire only whites because you think that you're right. Get out of the system. You're all dying out anyway. Get out of the way and let progress come and let forward thinking come. I'm sick and tired of it. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, it was 2015. I was planning to set up the Exodus Foundation, right? I'm a woman of color, and I'm setting up a foundation to provide services to domestic violence victims. I was on a speakers bureau for Haven, the local domestic violence bureau in Pontiac, Oakland County. And I went to them for a job. They would not hire me. A true story. They did not hire me. They would not hire me. But they hired a young white woman. You know what was their excuse? She was homeless and you are not. At the time, I lived with my mother because I had lost my full-time job and couldn't pay my bills. So I had to move in with my mother to have shelter, right? They hired a young white woman, true story, who was homeless. You want to talk to me about racism? And this is nonprofits. This is racism. This is liberalism. People who said they were liberals and they didn't see color when they looked at people. But you look at the color of my skin and you hire the white woman because you wanted to hire her. Do you see what I'm saying? So don't talk to me about racism. And they said, well, Harry, you're more qualified. You know, you've done more stuff than we have. You really don't need this. I needed the money so that I could help get that off the ground. I still got that off the ground. Just took longer, right? It took a little bit longer than I wanted it to take. So I was working so I could take it and start doing it all at the same time. That's what made me who I am. That's why I don't joke today. I don't play around with this stuff. You see now? Do you understand me now? That's why I don't joke around. I can't afford to. Lives are at stake. While they were busy playing racist, people were busy suffering. While they were delaying me and think they were stopping me, they were stopping people from having shelter. My eyes were focused on the big picture. They were looking at the here and now. Where are those people today? They don't even work there anymore. I don't even know where they are. Some of them retired and had to move on because they felt badly. I'm like, you're a racist as anything. That is evil. Racism is evil because it destroys people's lives. Are you hearing what I'm saying? And but for the grace of God, it could have been me. I don't tolerate that foolishness today. You come to me with that foolishness, I don't have any part of you, because that I experienced myself and saw firsthand what it did to me trying to bring help to others. See where I'm coming? So I don't play that card. The racist, colorist card, you're not going to find it here. I believe in love. I believe that the love of God, if it's in your heart, you're going to find a way to bring it to someone else. I believe that when people get together, they love each other. I don't believe in attaching labels like interracial couples. I don't believe in that. Love is love. And where pure love exists, that's the unifying force. So if I were you today, my prayer for you is you find love, whatever context you find it in, whatever love you find it in, support that love. If all the love you ever get is one to another, we need to go back to that, where we have love one to another. Love, the love of God shed abroad that brings us all together. When it comes right down to it, we all need God. We're all standing under this heaven. When time comes, we're not going to be able to take off in a spaceship and a space flight and escape what's going to happen. We're all going to have to be in the same place, no matter how much money we have, no matter how different we look, and look up. My prayer for you today is that as you look up, you'll be able to find love one to another. If somebody needs your help, somebody comes before you and you're white and you're in a position, help them. If you're Black, you're Arab, you're any other ethnicity, don't think about their color. Just do it with the love of God. Be blessed, everybody. See you tomorrow. Go to harrietkenlock.com. Go to the exodusfoundation.com. Help us to be a blessing. I provide services to anybody. I had white girls in my shelter. I've talked to white people who have experienced just as much harm as everyone else. So when I tell you hurt is hurt, hurt is hurt. So come back and see me tomorrow. Thanks so much, everybody. Be blessed. Have a great Wednesday. Go out and wow somebody with love. Love, love, love. Let love be the unifying and defining force. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.